The moment Silas pulled the trigger, I didn't think about dying. I thought about the baby they tried to drown. Even with a bullet in my shoulder, I refused to stay silent. The truth had waited long enough, and I was done hiding. My name is Loretta Kincaid, and I've lived on Lake Meridian longer than most folks around here have been paying taxes. 68 years old, widowed 15. And the only thing that still feels steady in my bones is that porch swing that creaks with the same rhythm as my heart. Every evening, I pour a glass of sweet tea, listen to the crickets start their choir, and watch the light slide across the lake until it melts into night. That's my peace. Quiet, ordinary. Nobody needing anything from me. People in Meridian Hollow like to act polite, calling me Miss Loretta in the grocery line. But once you're past 60, they start looking at you like you're halfway to invisible. They smile, but what they really mean is she's harmless now. I can feel that kind of pity crawl up my back. So before I tell you what happened that night, I need you to listen all the way through, because old doesn't mean confused, and what I saw was real. It was near sundown when the calm broke. Tires screamed against gravel on Lakeview Drive. Too fast for that curve. I know the sound of anger. It has a pitch, sharp like a snapped belt. Headlights tore through the pine trees, slicing across the water. Then I saw the car, my son's. Silas Kincaid, Jr., my baby boy, though he's grown now, nearly 40. He parked crooked, half on the shoulder, engine still running. He stepped out like a man chasing ghosts, jaw tight, shoulders hunched, eyes darting toward the lake. He didn't see me sitting in the dark. I held still, barely breathing. He popped the trunk, wrestled out something heavy, a brown leather suitcase. Mine. The one I gave him when he swore he was starting fresh. I remember the day I bought it. Seeing it there in his hands that night felt like betrayal, wrapped in mud. He dragged it toward the shore, boots sinking in the clay. The suitcase thudded against the ground with every pull. No prayer, no hesitation, just one swing, and he hurled it into the water. The sound wasn't a splash, it was a blunt drop, thick, final. My stomach turned cold. You ever watch your own blood do something you can't unsee? That's what it felt like. I whispered, "Baby, what did you just do?" The word stayed stuck behind my teeth. He didn't look back. He climbed into the car and drove off, tail lights smearing red across the dark. Something in me changed right then. I wasn't just a mother anymore. I was a witness. At first, I thought I heard frogs croaking. Then again, muffled, short, not frogs. My body moved before my mind agreed. That's how mothers move when danger calls in a voice they recognize but can't explain. I got down those porch steps, every joint arguing, but I kept going. The mud sucked at my shoes, the water cold enough to bite through denim. The moon caught the surface, and for a second, I saw bubbles rising where the suitcase had gone under. "Lord, don't let me be too late," I muttered, wading deeper. My left hip screamed, but I reached the handle, slick with algae and fear. It was heavier than it should have been. I tugged, cursed softly. "Come on, Loretta, pull." The suitcase fought me, but I won. I hauled it onto the shore, chest heaving, water dripping off the sides like the lake didn't want to let go. Then I heard it again, from inside, a sound that doesn't belong to anything but life. My fingers trembled. The zipper, swollen and stiff. "Please, please open," I begged. It caught, tore, then gave. Inside wasn't what any mother should ever see. A baby, tiny, wet, barely breathing. His skin was pale blue at the edges, lips trembling. A piece of twine tied off the cord where a hospital clamp should have been. My heart split clean in two. I scooped him up, pressed him to my chest. His breath fluttered against me like a bird trying to stay alive. "Stay with me, little one. Stay," I whispered. I didn't think about drowning, or my heart, or the cold, only that child's heartbeat against mine. I felt it slow, then catch again. That's the night I stopped believing silence keeps you safe. By morning, folks would be saying I imagined it all, but I know what I saw. I pulled life out of that lake with my own hands, and the man who threw it in was my son. And that's when the lies about me started, before I even got that baby dry. The baby was wrapped in one of my old towels, laid out on my dining table under that yellow kitchen light that hums like an old bee. His tiny chest fluttered, weak but steady. I kept one hand on his back, rubbing slow circles, whispering, "Stay with me, sweetheart. Grandma's right here." My fingers wouldn't stop trembling, but my mind was sharp. I called 911. My voice didn't shake when I said, "There's a baby. He's alive, but barely. I need someone now." While waiting, I boiled water, warmed another towel in the microwave, and held him close to my chest. The smell of the lake clung to him, mud, algae, fear. "You're not going anywhere tonight," I whispered. When the first responders came, I felt hope break through my panic until I caught the look in one man's eyes. Suspicion, like I was part of whatever evil had just happened. I told them what I saw, my son, Silas Kincaid Jr. Throwing that suitcase into the lake, I said it plain, without shaking. The whole room went quiet, heavy like air before a storm. That's when Verena Doss arrived. Her heels clicked on my floor like she owned it. "Loretta, what did you do?" she said. No greeting, no worry. Just that tone that sounds sweet till you taste the poison. She didn't even look at the baby. She went straight to the EMT and said, "She's been confused lately. We've been telling Silas we need to get her checked. She forgets things." I stared at her, slow and calm. "I'm not confused. Verena, I pulled that child out of the lake because your boyfriend threw him in." My voice cut through her fake tears. Her lips trembled just enough to look good on camera. If someone had been recording. She leaned closer to one paramedic. "She says wild stuff when she's upset. Told us I stole money once." She smiled like it was a joke. That's how humiliation works. It's soft, public, and it stings worse than a slap. Then came Deputy Arlen Morrow. Middle-aged, polite, tired eyes. He asked questions like he was taking a noise complaint. "So, you're saying your son tossed some luggage?" He skipped the word. "Baby," I corrected him. "A suitcase, with a baby inside." He blinked, wrote something down, then asked if I might have misinterpreted what I saw. Verena stepped in again, voice sugar-coated. "She's been through a lot, alone too much. Sometimes she mixes things up." I said his full name, every syllable clear. "Deputy Arlen Morrow. Look at me. I'm not confused. I'm a witness." He nodded, not listening, said he'd make a note. I started writing my own. Time, names, what each person said. I spoke it out loud so they'd hear. "It's 9:47 September 28th, and Deputy Morrow says he'll make a note, not file a charge." Outside, people were gathering. Porch lights blinked on. Shadows moved along the road. Pastor Clive Hensley showed up next, that syrupy tone ready. "Loretta, honey, we all know grief can play tricks." I met his eyes. What I saw wasn't grief. "Pastor, it was my grandbaby in that lake." He frowned, turned to the deputy, murmured about keeping things quiet. Verena nodded like they were saving the town's dignity. I said nothing. My silence was my last defense. By midnight, gossip had already done its work. My phone buzzed with a text. Heard you had an episode. You okay? Miss Loretta? That one word, episode, told me exactly what story was spreading. I screenshotted it. Then a message from Nyla Penn, the local reporter. Loretta. Did this really happen? Folks saying you made it up for attention. I typed back. Come tomorrow. I'll tell you what I saw, but you better write it true. I looked down at the baby, still sleeping under my lamp, and said softly, They called me crazy, little one, but I know what's real. That night, I learned something I should have known already. In this town, the truth don't matter until somebody else says it for you. So the next morning, I decided to find someone who would listen. And she didn't just listen. She pulled the files. Because if the law wasn't going to write down the truth, I was going to write it myself. Morning came gray and mean, like it knew what kind of night I'd had. My coffee sat cold beside a notebook full of angry handwriting. I hadn't slept a minute. The phone buzzed steady with messages, neighbors pretending to care, others fishing for gossip. I didn't answer a one. I just flipped to a fresh page and wrote the first line clear as scripture, September 29th, 8:12, Imam. No report filed. That phrase came straight from Deputy Morrow's mouth when I called him. No official case was filed, ma'am. His voice carried that small-town politeness that means, don't bother us again. I wrote his name twice, pressed hard with my pen until the page almost tore. They wanted to forget, but I wouldn't let them. In small towns, I said out loud to no one, memory fades fast. Paper don't. The house was too quiet without the baby's little breaths. My chest felt hollow. But if nobody else would hold the truth, I would. I picked up the phone and called the only person I trusted with both blood and secrets, Maybelle Rowan. Maybelle answered on the second ring, same voice as always, half gravel, half gospel. Loretta Kincaid, what kind of mess you in now? You ever seen a death record for a baby that ain't dead? I asked. She paused. Not unless someone's lying, and folks do that easy. We agreed to meet. I drove slow through Meridian Hollow, early autumn light sliding between pecan trees, gospel humming from the radio. My notebook rode shotgun like a partner in crime. When I pulled up to Maybelle's porch, she already had her coat on and car keys in hand. Hospitals still got my name in their system, she said. You talk, I'll do the looking. At Hall County Hospital, the front clerk smiled wide. Miss Rowan, ain't seen you since the blood drive. Southern friendliness always means they're watching. Maybelle leaned on the counter. Need to check a file for a training exercise, she said, flashing her old ID. Nobody questioned a woman who'd once saved half their kin. Inside the records room, the air was stale with toner and old secrets. Maybelle typed, quiet but fast. Then she froze. Her face went still as marble. Look, she whispered. On the screen glowed the words, Certificate of Fetal Death. Elias Kincaid. My knees buckled. He's alive. Maybelle. I held him. I know, she said, hitting print. Which means somebody wanted him dead on paper. We stuffed the sheet into her bag just as footsteps passed by. We started talking about bingo night like two old ladies killing time. When the sound faded, I exhaled slow. They already buried him, I said, and didn't even dig a hole. Back at her bungalow, Maybelle circled the signature line with a red pen. Filed by Verena Doss. She ain't got authority for that. I shook my head. She used Silas's name. Turned my own son into her alibi. Maybelle said, This ain't proof enough. You'll need more. Then I'll make enough, I told her. We printed copies, saved one to her flash drive, sealed another inside my Bible between Psalms and Proverbs. If anything happens to me, that paper speaks. Driving home. The sun dipped low, red through the trees. My phone buzzed, a voicemail from Verena. Her voice oozed calm. Loretta, please don't make this worse. Silas can't handle another scandal. You know what people say about crazy mothers. I listened twice, saved it, whispered. I ain't crazy, Verena. I'm awake. I logged one last note, Septing 29, 7:03 p.m. False death record found. Copy secured. Threat received. Then I looked out across Lake Meridian. The water lay still, pretending innocence. They buried my grandbaby on paper, I said, but I pulled him out with my hands. Next morning, the phone rang. Sheriff's office. They wanted me downtown for clarification. That's when I knew the storm had noticed me. The next morning, the air felt thick as syrup. When the sheriff's office called, their tone was sugar sweet. Just come in for a little clarification, Miss Kincaid. I drove myself, slow, steady. My daddy used to say, if they pick you up, you're under their story. If you walk in, you're under yours. The substation sat behind the post office. Small brick building with a Georgia flag drooping on the wall. The lobby smelled like carpet cleaner and coffee gone bad. A young deputy led me to a back room with no windows. That told me all I needed. This wasn't help. It was containment. Sheriff Calder Boone came in, all polished manners and white hair, the kind of man who says, ma'am, like a weapon. He smiled like a preacher, but his eyes scanned me like a case file. Loretta, he began, we're just worried. People say you've been under stress. We don't want you hurting yourself. I leaned back, steady. No, sir. I'm not here because I'm confused. I'm here because my grandson was thrown in a suitcase, and y'all don't want to write that sentence down. He blinked, pen still capped. I nodded toward it. You go ahead and start your paperwork now, Sheriff Calder Boone. He didn't. That silence told me exactly who was on trial here, and it wasn't Silas. Then came the turn. Boone said, we already spoke to Verena Doss. She says you've been making threats. She says you told her you'd take that baby to keep Silas from her. That true? I almost laughed. That's how y'all do it, I told him, voice calm. First you call a woman crazy, then you call her dangerous. He shifted forward. If we get the sense you're unstable, county services may have to step in. For your own protection. Try it, I said, low. You lock me up. First call I make is Channel 5. Seconds, my pastor. Yes, I've been paying taxes in this county since 1982. You're not disappearing me like I'm trash on the side of the road. That's when he flinched. Respect, or fear, they sound the same. I reached into my purse and slid 3 things across the table. The hospital printout Maybelle found, my handwritten timeline, and a typed copy of Verena's voicemail. Before you call me unstable, I said. You explain why a dead baby was breathing on my kitchen table while a woman who ain't kin to me filed his death. Boone went quiet. His jaw ticked. He told Deputy Arlen Morrow to step out for a minute. I watched him go. See that? I said to the air. You bring paper. They go rewrite their script in the hallway. Boone came back. Voice honeyed again. Loretta, what if we say this was a misunderstanding? Maybe Silas panicked. Didn't know what to do. Nobody meant harm. You're trying to rename attempted murder, I said, eyes steady. You call it panic. He walks free. You call it what it is. Maybe that baby gets justice. He tried again. If we go that route, no one has to question whether you're fit to live alone. Sheriff Calder Boone, I said, leaning forward. I am an old black woman in Hall County, not a broken window you tape over. I'm the only reason that baby's still got air in his chest. You're not going to call that panic. You are going to call that attempted murder. He froze, and I felt it, the power shift. For the first time since that night, I wasn't the one being defined. When I stepped out into the parking lot, the heat hit like Judgment Day. Nyla Penn sat in her car waiting. Notepad ready. I slid into the passenger seat. "You want to know what really happened?" I said. "A baby was pulled out of Lake Meridian breathing, and his paperwork says he's dead. My son's woman filed it, and the sheriff's trying to call it confusion." Nyla whispered. "If I run this, it'll explode." "Good," I said. "If anything happens to me or that baby, you ask Sheriff Boone why he called murder a misunderstanding." When I got home, my mailbox hung crooked, half torn open. I stood there a long time, wind rustling the trees. "When a woman like Verena Doss feels cornered," I murmured, "she don't pray, she escalates." That night, I knew they weren't just coming for my name. They were coming for that baby and my house. When I pulled into my driveway that evening, the first thing I noticed was the porch light. Gone dark. Someone had twisted the bulb loose. My mailbox hung open. Mail scattered across the steps like breadcrumbs left by a coward. "That's how country threats look," I said under my breath. Small, but personal. They let you know they've been close. I went straight to the drawer where I kept my copies. The hospital printout, the one Maybelle risked her neck to get, was gone. Every envelope there was shuffled like someone's fingers had been in my life. I called Maybelle. She picked up whispering, "Loretta, somebody's been in my house too. My flash drive's missing." My stomach dropped. "They're cleaning the trail," I said softly, then louder so the mic on my phone recorder could catch it. "That's what bullies do. They start with fear, hoping you'll fold before morning." Not an hour later. The phone rang again. "Ma'am," said a clerk from the county courthouse, "you've been listed in a temporary restraining order filed by Ms. Verena Doss." I almost laughed from the absurdity. "What did she say I did? Rescue a baby?" The clerk hesitated. "She alleges harassment and threats regarding custody." "The same baby I saved," I muttered. I told the audience. "That's how the wicked flip it. They burn you and hand you the ashes like a gift." I drove to Maybelle's. She poured coffee with shaking hands. "They want you mad in public," she said. "Don't give them that headline. She's trying to make me the villain in her story," I said, tapping the table. "Well, we'll make it my headline." We decided Nyla needed to see it, turn their legal lie into daylight. "If I'm gonna burn," I said, "it's gonna light up the truth." Just past midnight, glass shattered on my porch. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped outside. My late husband's framed photo lay face down, glass splintered. Across the wall, in red spray paint, "Liar." I crouched, picking up the pieces. "You told me once, baby," I whispered to his picture. "People get bold when they scared. Looks like I hit a nerve." I called Deputy Morrow to report it. He sounded bored. "You sure it wasn't kids?" "You think kids know how to find legal folders, Deputy?" I answered. He had no reply. So I documented everything myself. Timestamp, photos, a voice memo describing that red word. Proof over panic. When Nyla arrived 20 minutes later, her recorder light blinked red. I opened the door and said, "You still want to run that story, honey? It just wrote a new headline." She saw the vandalism and gasped. "They took your proof?" "They took a copy," I said. "Not the truth," she warned. "If you go public, they'll come harder." "I've been harder my whole life," I told her. "You don't fight lies by whispering." We sat on the porch, wind cutting cold through the trees, and she hit record. Her headline, "The Woman Who Pulled a Baby from the Lake," and got labeled dangerous. At 3 a.m., a knock rattled my door. A woman from Child Services stood there, badge trembling. We got a report of neglect. Said you have a newborn on site. I kept my voice even. That baby's in the hospital. You can call Dr. Mayfield to confirm. And while you at it, ask who filed your report. She blinked, uneasy. We'll close it out. She left her card and hurried off. When the door shut, I exhaled. They tried to use the law as a weapon, and it jammed in their hands. I sat at my kitchen table, the one thing still in order, staring at the last evidence folder I had left. They got fear, I got facts. Let's see which lasts longer. Then the phone buzzed again, unknown number. I answered. A man's voice hissed. You think we don't know where you live, old woman? I let the silence hang, then said, calm as prayer. You just confirmed it. You're scared. I hung up. By sunrise, I'd made up my mind. Next morning, I told myself, I'll walk into that courthouse with Maybelle and Nyla by my side, and I won't leave until a judge hears my name right. Morning light hit the courthouse steps like judgment. I didn't sneak in, I walked proud, Maybelle Rowan on my left and Nyla Penn on my right, not escorts, witnesses. People stared. In a small southern courthouse, gossip moves faster than justice. The air smelled of paper and lemon cleaner, and the walls were lined with church bake sale flyers beside foreclosure notices. When a black woman my age walks in with a reporter and a nurse, I whispered, folks pay attention even when they pretend not to. Sheriff Calder Boone was already there, standing beside Verena Doss and my son, Silas Kincaid, Jr. Boone smiled that polite sheriff smile that always hides something. Verena came dressed in soft pink like innocence itself. Her eyes looked wet, but not from tears. Silas couldn't meet my gaze. His shame sat heavy on his shoulders. Boone raised his voice just enough for everyone in the hallway to hear. Ms. Kincaid's been making serious accusations and causing distress. His tone was syrupy, but it stung. I felt the crowd lean in for spectacle. They wanted me to hang my head. I thought, that's how they do it. Shame first, paperwork later. Then Boone took it further. Given Miss Kincaid's age and mental strain, he said, we're concerned about her ability to manage herself. I felt the eyes, pity mixed with gossip. Verena leaned toward the clerk, stage whispering, we're worried about her. She's confused. She thinks our baby is hers. I stepped forward. My voice didn't shake. Your Honor, I said, before anybody calls me confused, let the record show. On September 28th, at Lake Meridian, I saw Silas Kincaid, Jr. throw a suitcase into the water. I heard crying from inside. I pulled out a living newborn boy. I called 911. That child is in Hall County Hospital right now. I am not confused. I am a witness. Silence fell so hard you could hear the courthouse clock ticking. Even Silas looked up. Nyla's phone dinged softly. She was recording. For the first time, the truth had sound. Verena started crying on cue. My God, Loretta, she said. How could you accuse us like that? We panicked. The baby wasn't breathing right. We didn't know what to do. That word panicked hit my ear wrong. It was Boone's word from yesterday. They rehearsed, I said under my breath. I turned to Verena and said plain. You threw him in a lake? Silas snapped. You don't understand. Loretta, you don't know the pressure. He stopped mid-sentence, realizing he'd said too much. Boone jumped in, flustered. That's enough. Inside, everyone. He was losing grip on his own story. The hearing room was small, more storage than courtroom. Judge Hartley, a gray-haired woman with reading glasses, looked up as we entered. Miss Kincaid, she said, are you seeking custody? I'm seeking protection, I replied. I laid my papers before her. The falsified certificate of fetal death for Elias Kincaid, my written 911 timeline, and Verina's voicemail. Please don't make this worse. Silas can't handle another scandal. When people lie on you in private, I said, you answer in private. When they lie on you in public, you answer in public. The judge read in silence. Boone stopped smiling. Verina's face cracked. Silas looked ready to melt through the floor. Then I said the words I came to say. Silas Kincaid, Jr. got a 6-figure payout when his daddy passed. That money moves again if this baby's death certificate sticks. Verina filed false state paperwork. Sheriff Boone told me to call it a misunderstanding. I call it attempted murder. The air turned electric. Nyla kept recording. Maybelle's hand touched mine. Steady. Judge Hartley spoke, calm but clear. Effective immediately, protective custody for the infant known as Elias. Ms. Doss and Mr. Kincaid are barred from contact. For the first time, someone in power said, protect the baby, not calm down, Loretta. As the judge left, Boone leaned in close. You don't know what you've started. Yes, I do, I told him. You just lost control of the story. I walked out into sunlight that felt like freedom and warning mixed together. I knew I'd painted a target on my back, I told the viewers, but that baby had a shield now, and honey, that shield was my mouth. What I didn't know yet was how far Verina would go to make sure I never walked back out of any building again. The courthouse doors shut behind me, and sunlight felt heavier than it should have. My shoulder still burned from where Silas's eyes had followed me last. Maybelle was saying something about lunch, Nyla checking her phone for updates, when I noticed Verina pacing by their truck. Her face had gone blank. That kind of stillness people get when the mask's about to crack. The air was thick, humming with heat and cicadas. She called out, "You think you can take my life away?" Her voice carried across the lot, brittle and sharp. I turned slow, steady, the way my mama taught me when dealing with snakes. "What you call your life," I said, "is a baby fighting to breathe." Nyla's hand lifted her phone, quiet but deliberate. She already knew what was coming. Silas barked at Verina. "Get in the damn car, we're leaving." But he looked at me when he said, "You ruined everything." I saw his elbow dip under the seat, the quick jerk of his arm, and then the world cracked. I didn't hear the bang first. I felt the punch, heat and fire tearing through my shoulder. The taste of metal filled my mouth. My knees gave out and I hit the pavement. I remember thinking, "Don't drop your purse, Loretta. Your ID's in there. They'll lie if they think you don't have ID." That's Southern thinking. Survival and dignity all mixed together. Maybelle's hands pressed on me hard, trembling. "Stay with me, girl. Stay with me." Her voice broke. I blinked up at her face, haloed by blue sky and courthouse glass. "Closed eyes get written down wrong," I whispered. Nyla's voice cut through the noise. "I got it on video. It's all on video." She stood her ground while Boone shouted, "Put that phone down, ma'am." But she didn't. "Sir, this ain't law enforcement," she said loud enough for God and the crowd to hear. "This is attempted murder of a senior black woman in broad daylight." People stopped pretending not to watch. Deputies came running. One grabbed Silas. Another hesitated, confused by Boone's silence. Verina screamed, "He didn't do anything!" Louder than sirens, but everyone heard the shot. When EMTs reached me, one leaned close, saying, "Ma'am, stay with me, you're okay." I managed. "No, baby, you're here 'cause I'm okay." The paramedic laughed, half crying, half working. Humor's the only way you stay human while bleeding. I woke up under hospital lights, shoulder wrapped, arm still. the antiseptic smell cutting through morphine fog. Maybelle was beside me, eyes swollen. "You scared me half to death, woman," I told her. "Half to death, still half alive." She smiled through tears. Nyla stood at the window, jaw tight. "Your video's safe," she said. "I sent 2 copies out already. One to a lawyer, one to a state investigator. They can't bury this." That's when Detective Carla Ruiz walked in. Latina, short hair, business suit with purpose. "Miss Kincaid," she said. "I'm state CID. We're taking over. Silas Kincaid Jr. is detained. Verena Doss is in custody. Sheriff Boone's been removed from the case." I smiled slow. That's what rot looks like when sunlight hits it. Ruiz nodded. "You saved a child and survived an attempted homicide. The baby, Elias, is under state protection. The false death certificates logged as evidence." I felt tears sting. Not grief, relief. People think we cry because we're soft. I told her. Sometimes we cry because someone finally stopped lying about us. When Ruiz left, the room went quiet. I looked up at the ceiling tiles. "Lord?" I whispered. "I ain't scared of dying. I buried a husband, outlasted 2 cancers. I'm scared that baby won't hear nobody say he mattered." That's what kept me breathing. Not revenge, not pride, that baby's future. "Elias, baby," I whispered. "Grandma Loretta's still here." Later, Ruiz came back. "Ms. Kincaid, Verena's already telling people you stole her baby for money. This will get loud." I chuckled. "Ma'am, I've been talked about since 1958. You do your job, I'll do mine." Outside, streetlights glowed over the hospital lot. I thought, they tried to drown that baby. Then they tried to bury me. Neither worked. Now they'll have to hear what really happened by that lake. When the morning came, I decided I wasn't hiding anymore. Folks could whisper all they wanted, but not one of them had pulled a living child from a lake. I told Detective Ruiz, "No, ma'am. She doesn't get to paint me ugly in my own town." So there I sat in front of the Hall County Sheriff's Office, arm in a sling, shoulder bandaged, the Georgia sun hot on my skin. Ruiz stood behind me, calm but alert. Nyla held her phone up, streaming live. A small news crew hovered, waiting for something loud, but I gave them something quiet instead. A reporter shouted, "Ma'am, are you alleging they tried to kill the baby?" "It ain't alleging," I said. "I pulled that suitcase out the lake myself. That child was breathing water and turning blue. I held him till help got there. His name is Elias, and he's my blood." The air went still. Cameras clicked. I looked right into one and said, "That baby is not trash. He is not leverage. He is not anybody's payday. And if I gotta spend every penny I saved in 45 years to make sure he sleeps safe, then that's what that money was for." I saw Ruiz nod once. Her presence gave my words weight. No yelling, no tears, just truth. That's what the crowd remembered. After I finished, Ruiz stepped forward. "At this time," she said to the cameras, "Verena Doss is being held on suspicion of endangering a minor, falsifying state documents, and conspiracy to defraud. Silas Kincaid Jr. faces charges of attempted murder and attempted homicide regarding the same infant." They brought Silas out in cuffs. He looked smaller, shoulders caved in. Verena came out behind him, screaming, "He's my baby! She's lying!" Her voice cracked on camera, all wild and ugly. I didn't say a word, let her choke on her own noise. I told the viewers later, "That's how lies die. You don't fight 'em, you outlive 'em." Reporters chased her, not me. Nyla leaned down and whispered, "They're listening to you now, Miss Loretta." For the first time in weeks, I felt the air shift in my favor. Then Ruiz leaned close and said softly, "Judge Hartley just signed something. Effective immediately. You have temporary kinship guardianship of Elias." I blinked. "You mean he's mine to keep safe?" She smiled. "Exactly that. Nobody can move him, claim him, or sign him away without your say-so." Maybelle broke into a cry so loud it startled a deputy. "Girl, you did it!" I squeezed her hand. "No. We just ain't losing today." That evening, the house smelled like baby powder and lavender. Elias slept in the crib I'd built weeks ago when I didn't even know if he'd live. The hospital bracelet was still on his tiny ankle. I stood over him, whispering, "Nobody's putting you in no water again, baby. Nobody's walking off while you cry. From now on, when they say your name, they'll say, 'That's Loretta Kincaid's grandson.' And they'll act right." He stirred, let out a small sound, then went quiet again. I kissed his forehead gently, careful not to pull my stitches. "You're home now." I turned to the camera Nyla left recording on the table and spoke to whoever would listen. People ask if I'm scared they'll come back. Baby, let 'em. I'm old, not weak. I got cameras, neighbors, and God. And now I got paperwork. Later that night, Maybelle and Nyla sat with me in the living room, TV humming low. For once, the anchor said my name with respect. Maybelle grinned. "You know they'll talk about you all over town. Some say hero, some say trouble." "They've been calling me trouble since Eisenhower," I said. "Hero don't pay light bills. What matters is that boy sleeps safe." Nyla looked at me like I was family. "What do you want folks to remember about all this?" I answered slow. "This part right here. Not the gun, not the court. This part. An old black woman said no, and she meant it. That no saved a life." I turned off the TV. The house went quiet. Just baby breath through the monitor. I leaned back, eyes closing, peace settling like a blanket. "If anybody comes for this child again," I whispered, "they won't be dealing with a grieving old woman. They'll be dealing with a witness." That night, as Elias slept and the cicadas sang outside, I caught a faint click from the porch camera. A shadow moved, too slow to be the wind, too sure to be chance. I whispered to myself, "So it begins again." The red light blinked once, then went dark.